I just wanted to come on here really quick before we start this episode, and I want to give you a quick life update. Um, so, as you guys know, I haven't been able to post in the last couple of weeks. There's just been things that have been going on, as well as I'm going to take another break for a couple more weeks. Reason behind this one, though, is because I'm moving. It's a little bittersweet for me, but when I come back, we'll have more guests. We should be back to our normal schedule, and the background will be much different. So I'll be in a different place. I'll be recording in a different studio, essentially. And yeah, that's it. So with that, let's get back to the episode. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Life After LADD214. Today, I have with me a very special guest, James Duke Teich. James, Duke, how are you?
I'm great. It's a beautiful day here in Kyle.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I'm looking outside my window too. So, Duke, I have no idea who you are. To be fair, the only way that you and I know each other is because we have a mutual person. My dad, your friend, and he put me on to you. We were just talking right before we started, and you've already got a great story to tell, and I cannot wait to get into it. So let's just jump right into it. Duke, talk to me about when and why you first joined the Army.
So I first joined the Army in 1983, and the economy wasn't great. And I had graduated from college, and I kind of puttered around and ended up working hospitality, bars and restaurants. And it was just crazy, 5 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the morning, and just nutty stuff. I thought there's got to be something more out there that I can do. And so at the time, Reagan was ramping up the military, and there were opportunities. And I thought, well, I'll join, and I'll do 3 years to get some skills, and then I can come out and really figure out what I want to do and try to make it happen. And so I did, and then 23 years later, I retired.
There you go. I find it fascinating already because you said in 1983 the economy wasn't doing great, and then about 2008 the economy wasn't doing great, and recently the economy wasn't doing great. People are joining the military and ramping up. So
Yeah.
I'm already thinking in my head like, man, history absolutely rhymes, and it's generational. It seems like your generation and then into my generation because I was coming into the Army as you were getting out, as you were retiring,
Mm-hmm.
but at that point, the economy was starting to go back down, and so
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a big rhyme happening.
Well, and the thing when I started in '83, the it was the early part of the ramp up, and as we got into it and went a little further, they were getting to be more selective, and you had to work really hard. It was not, the Army from 3 years before that, where it's like, hey, he's breathing, and he can pass a PT test, and let's go, let's move him on. And
Yeah,
there were a lot of people that ended up, ended up doing something they didn't want to do or going home because they ended up tightening the qualifications for you to keep going.
yeah. That's also another rhyming scheme too, because even at 2013, 2014, they were drawing down, and as we know, in the 90s there was a drawdown as well.
Yeah.
So they were just tightening the belt and making sure that everybody was where they needed to be, where they believed that they needed to be. So yeah,
Well,
it's
yeah,
crazy.
and I think the one of the lessons that we learned, and uh, I remember I was in the 7th Infantry Division in 89 to 94, 93, and they called it the Corvette plant because by the time they took taxes out and gave you your check for getting out, you could go down to the Chevy dealer and buy a brand new Corvette. And that, which was a horrible decision, but people did it. And but I think what they learned is they wanted this more focused fighting force, and you're still going to get the folks that don't have that warrior mentality that we're carrying, and hopefully they're learning that people deserve a chance, but you can't carry them for an entire 20-year career
Okay.
because we need everybody to contribute these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you do in the Army?
So I was a quartermaster
Okay.
officer. and did.
Go logistics.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had a lot of opportunities that most people don't get, and a lot of industrial experience. Worked with DLA for several years, and ended up getting a exchange assignment with the British Army and worked in their depot agency there for a couple of years, and worked ended up going to Germany and worked in USER headquarters, and it was just awesome. Just got a lot of breaks.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of my peers, just so you guys are tracking, after this, reach out to Duke, pick his brain. He's got the logistics mindset. Like I came out, as a logistics captain. So I was an ordnance
Oh,
officer. I
okay.
started off.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and a lot of my peers are obviously within the logistics corps. So guys, reach out, pick his brain. There's a
Yeah.
lot of great
Absolutely.
information that is inside of this brain right now that needs to be set free.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You said that you retired about 2006. What
Yeah.
was the deciding factor? Because I mean, we were already quite a bit in the global war on terror.
Yeah. So the funny part about it is I had originally put in to retire in 2004 at 20 years because I was living in Sacramento, I was stationed at Travis Air Force Base, and I thought, well,
The Army guy on the Air Force Base.
Army guy in the Air Force Base, and I said, oh, I could. This is where I want to be, and I can start looking for a job. And so I put in my paperwork to retire. Well, then, as you point out, the global war on terror starts ramping up,
Mm-hmm.
and there was probably a lot of misinformation, but it was, hey, if you haven't been, by 2004, if you haven't been, we're going down the roster, and you're going to go. So I said, well, I'll go if you revoke my retirement, and they were like, sure, no problem. So
Done.
hey, done. And so they sent me into actually, interestingly, one of the breaks that I had, I was one of the last people to PCS to Kuwait, and I was in the CFLIC headquarters, but it was one of the last weeks, and they started that TCS thing, and so it was awesome, and I did 13 months there, and I spent a lot of my time traveling in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I was in charge of all the mess halls and the food. And we had, I think, like 120 something mess halls. And I probably visited 70 of them. So
Yeah.
in Iraq and Afghanistan, Kuwait, Bahrain. And so we were always out, checking stuff out and distribution and things like that. Well, towards the end of that, I get an email one day, and it's from the assignments guy, and he says, hey, I need somebody to go to Fort Meade. And I was like, okay, my daughters, both one in New York and one in Massachusetts. I said, sure. And I said, but I have my retirement in. He goes, no problem.
We'll
We'll pull
revoke
it
that one
again.
too.
We'll revoke that one too. So I ended up going to Fort Meade, and I worked in an ACRC unit.
Okay.
And interesting, so many breaks that I got. So they were training mobilized units, and they were at Fort Dix. So I got like 365 nights in a Marriott and Marriott points and per diem. So it was cool getting ready to retire. You got, kind of, it was a good job. It was very fulfilling, but you also got a little extra financial incentive to do it. And it was like I was really fortunate to have that break. But so I did a year there, and they came to me again, and they said, "Hey, if you'll stay here for another year," and I said, "I got my retirement. We'll pull it again." And I said, "Well, I applied for a job, and I have an interview in Sacramento with the fire department. It's a great job, and I can't do it again." And come on. And so stupid me. I said, "Well, I'm a single guy at this point." I said, "Oh, send me back to Iraq, and I'll do a year here, and then send me back to Iraq for a year, and then I'll retire." And they're like, "Okay." And I said, "No, I can't do it. I got to go." So it was just it was so unpredictable back then. I worked with a guy in CFLIC where he had tried his whole career to get to, I think it was 101st, and he like 6 weeks before he rotated, he got orders to 101st, and he's like, I'm so excited. And then he got a letter from his sponsor saying, "You might just want to stay there because
Oh no.
we're heading back, like 2 weeks after you get here." So he was of course bummed because he had a family and all that. So it's like, okay, I need to. I'm almost 49 years old. I need to get some stability and figure out what's the next chapter is.
Yeah. And so when you are getting ready to retire, now 2006 is much different than when I got out in 2014, 2015. So what was that getting out of the military, getting out of the army? Like we had to do obviously classes and things like
Yeah,
that to get out. What was the environment like in 2006?
you know, it was. We had I think it was TAP, the
Hmm.
Transition Assistance Program, and like many things in the Army, the people that were teaching it and the syllabus kind of a little bit behind, but there was still some good information. And so you had all these guys coming back that were full of confidence and, don't capitalize that in your resume. Nobody will look at it. And you're like, what are you talking about? I led a squad or I led a platoon or, all this stuff in supporting or conducting combat. But there were good points that people learned from, like me, I learned. And the job market was pretty good because it kind of the tail end of the boom, but just kind of starting to
Right.
swing down. And so there were a lot of jobs, a lot of tech jobs, and stuff was expanding. So they were looking for people with leadership experience. And I think one of the things that people should not overcount on is, well, I'm going to go work for the government. Well, I can tell you, if you retire, my perception is that the civil service has written into so many of the things that you could do, like emergency essential requirements, which means if you're retired, you can't apply. You couldn't go overseas, even a temporary job, and they just didn't want you in there. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do it, but I'm just saying the kind of job when you get off of that combat tour where you're always busy and you're making a difference, they don't really push you. You might be able to get a job, but not doing something that you're really going to make a difference at.
Right. That makes sense.
So, yeah, but I got a job with the local government, with the fire department as a facilities manager. I had like 50 stations and a couple admin buildings. And it was a great job until the economy started going down in 2008.
Right.
And of course, there's no money to do any projects. So they were looking at layoffs and the like. And so my boss said, hey, you might want to think about looking. And so I went to Vanilla Arabia in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and I was a
Okay.
logistics operations manager there. And it was really fun. And I was like, oh, I love deployments. Let's go. Let's keep doing this.
Let's back up just a tad bit. So you retired out of Meade
Fort Meade, yes.
and then you
Mm-hmm.
moved back across the country to Sacramento.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was obviously your choice to go back to Sacramento. Is that just where family is, or
Yeah.
is that
And just kind of my support system, my
okay?
friends. Yeah, kind of in hindsight, it worked out because I got that job. It was a really good job for about 4 years. So that part worked out. But if you don't work for the government in Sacramento or a government contractor, there's just really not a whole lot else. So
Yeah.
I had bought a house and all that kind of stuff. But interestingly, when I was at Fort Meade and I went through the TAP, I applied to a job at Amtrak, and it was a right away maintenance agent. And so I went down to Philadelphia. I think it's Union Station or wherever it
Hmm.
is. I met some really nice people, and like a week and a half later, I get this call, and it's like, "Hey, you're our guy. Come on in." And both my kids were in college, and I said, "Hey, it's in New Jersey, Trenton to somewhere, New York City, and a little bit further, and it just seems like it's right up my alley." And they're both like, "Yeah, Dad, we're moving when we get out of college." So I said, well, I suspect that you guys will end up back in California. So that's where I'm going.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's so funny that you brought up the railroad because that was actually one of the jobs that had come up for me as well as I was getting
Oh,
out.
really?
Was yeah, I don't remember exactly what the position was called, but yeah, they wanted to send me to a special school near Dallas, Texas, and I think it was BNSF, not
Uh-huh.
Amtrak. But either way, like there was, it's so funny, like how close in comparison this seems to be with our careers right now,
Yeah,
with our
yeah.
lives right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So you moved to back to Sacramento because one, you think your daughters are going to be moving there
Yeah.
afterwards,
Yeah.
and they did a great job of disappointing you. Um,
Yeah.
that's what us kids do. Um, and then, but you also had friends and family there who were able to
Friends, yeah,
plug you in,
knew the
and so
area.
that
Went to
really
college not too far from there, so kind of had
okay.
a little bit of socializing, and that I could build on. And
Yeah,
actually, Sacramento's a great place if you're happy. Good weather, and Lake Tahoe's nearby, San Francisco's nearby, the ocean, the mountains. It was a good thing until it started not being a good thing.
I understand. Like it is. My dad is a Northern California guy,
Yeah,
so it's always funny to see here in Texas where everybody is from, because
yeah,
not everybody's originally from Texas.
yeah. You are right.
Yeah. So you plugged into the fire department. You did fantastic things there, and then you said that you went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so I went to Saudi Arabia, to Vanilla Arabia, and I lived in Riyadh for a year. And I was logistics operations guy, so coordinating all the training for the Saudi Arabia National Guard through the Department of Defense. And it was really a lot of fun because you get in the military that sense of, I need to do this right now.
Right.
There's not, oh, I'll do it next week. And so, and if you do a good job, they recognize that. And so I eventually got promoted to being the manager of the maintenance branch, and we were doing strikers and small arms, and it was a lot of fun. And
Now that sounds
honestly,
more like my realm of the ordnance.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been perfect for you for sure. And we had employees that did a lot of the work, because it was sort of like depot level, where if they couldn't fix it at the unit, they would send it back to us,
Got it.
and we would fix it. And we had contact teams, and it was a full maintenance program. And but it was constantly trying to get people to do things. And the culture in the Arabian Peninsula, they start early in the morning and they leave like right after lunch. And so we're just kind of waking up, and they're hard at it, and then they start tapering down as we're tapering up. And there was that gap that made it a little hard to
Right.
kind of have a plan and get things done on time.
That I understand that. Yeah. Especially with the US military, we've got this mindset of we work 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
When we're working with local nationals, then they're like, this is our life. This is not how this is
yeah,
going to go.
yeah,
We have to adjust. We've dealt with that many times, especially your multiple times in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, and
yeah.
now the Saudi Peninsula and all these other places that you've been. But that also brings we talked about this earlier too, that also brings a whole mindset change when you're
Hmm.
in those civilian positions, because like I was saying before, I got out and one of my first jobs was somewhere in middle management, and I was telling my employees like, hey, before you leave, I need to make sure that you guys do this, this, and this. Now in the army, that's not a big
Yeah,
deal. They're like, Roger, got it, moving.
happens all the time.
Right. And then culture shock right into this new job, and you're like, hey, I need you to get this done before you leave. And they're like, well, we clock out at 5 minutes. So unless you're going to approve overtime, bye. This will wait till
Yeah,
tomorrow. So,
yeah. The sense of urgency, not nearly what it is in the military for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And so, what was your adventure after Saudi Arabia?
So I um, was like, okay, I need to develop as a person, right? And
Mhm.
I've been living over here, and I was in the military, and I need to be and I worked for the fire department, which was semi-military, very, very similar, but for the firefighters, the staff that I worked with, the guys I worked with were great, but a lot of them not, still kind of civilian mentality. So I ended up very funnily, I was in Dubai
Mhm.
with a buddy of mine, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're hammered, and I get a phone call, and
And it's
it's
still 115 degrees.
still, yeah, still, and we're at the Sheraton right by the airport, and it's a lady wants to interview me for a job, and I'm like, sure, and she goes, have you been drinking? I said, no, 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 no. So I ended up getting a job with a government agency as a contractor for back in 2010 for like 85K, which was pretty good back then.
Right.
And that lasted like 4 months because they drove me out of my mind.
Oh, wow.
It was all civilians, and we had a support contract to do admin support. And you know that inherently government functions have to be done by the government, and they would hand us something like we did invoicing, and we're like,
Yeah.
"That's you guys do that." That's no, they didn't want to do it. So that lasted for like 4 months, and it was fun, but good people, but just it wasn't my cup of tea. So I went to work in Afghanistan as a State Department contractor, working with mentoring the Afghan National Defense for the logistics guys, the
Mhm.
GSG-4. And so we worked with logistics planning, logistics operations. We helped them get PLLs going. We got convoys going, training and schooling. And it was very slow. You know, you would say, okay, we need to get from here to here, and let's go, boom. And they're like, no, let's go like this.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I got recognized for was they would take a battle loss, right? And we had tons of equipment over there, Humvees and whatever else we were having. And they would take a battle loss, and they would try to requisition a new one. And their U.S. counterparts were like, well, where is it? We need it. Oh, so, it's not how it works. And so me and the first Cav Division guys and the GSG-4 guys, we took it and we got the requisition. And by the time we were done, no kidding, there was probably 25 stamps and signatures on it. But we got the vehicle. And the first
Right.
Cav was like, oh my God, we did it. And that would have been like 2012, maybe 2011,
Okay.
2011. And so, it could be done, but it's so funny, people that you run into now, and almost anything you do, that's too hard. No, it's not going to work. Well, of course it's not going to work because you're not going to try. Let's get out there and try it. And you're like, okay, let's take this challenge. And I had my equipment managers at the GSG-4, and they're like, oh, this guy's got to sign it. All right, well, let's go call him, and oh, well, he's too busy, but we got it done. And that was the only replacement item that I ever heard of going back out to the crew.
There you go. Whereabouts was this in Afghanistan?
I was in Kabul, Camp Eggers.
Okay, so that's south, right? That's southern
Southwest,
Afghanistan.
south,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
southwest, yeah.
Okay. Because it's uncanny, your experience, because you were there, you said, up until 2012. Well, I had just gotten to Afghanistan in 2013, and we were doing quite the same thing. We were first deploying the SVAB, oh gosh, I can't remember what it stands for, but advisors for the battalions and our Kandak.
Yeah.
Since we were the logistics unit, we were Coach Teich mentoring really augmenting the logistics Kandak. It's an interesting place. I will say that the good news for us was, because at the time I was stationed in Fort Drum, once we first deployed to Afghanistan and it snowed, we were fine. We were all used to it.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
But we felt really bad when first Cav came back to replace us. And it snowed, and I swear I have never seen so many marshmallow suits and cold weather jackets in my life.
Yeah.
I felt even worse for the Puerto Rican National Guard, who also were coming with the first Cav
that
folks.
Would be horrible.
So
my goodness.
I felt really bad for those guys too.
When I left MEPS in 1983, I went to basic training for some unknown reason at Fort Dix, New Jersey in March. And we got there, and the first night we were in the reception station, we got like 8 inches of snow. And so we had got there at night and took the bus from Philadelphia, and we got to bed at like 11. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they're like, all right, get your shovel, let's go. It's the middle of the night.
Yeah. Oh,
they did not want to hear it.
I understand completely. I would tell this story a lot, even on this show. When I was stationed at Fort Drum, you would wake up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to shovel your driveway. because there was a light dusting when you were going to bed, and then you woke up the next morning and there were 6 feet that you had to
Oh my
clear out.
goodness. Yeah, I'll take Texas. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually the reason why we decided that it was time to move back to Texas. Was
Okay.
I'm done with shoveling snow. I did it
Yeah,
for enough years.
yeah.
Okay, so what brought you back to Texas then? Since we're on
So,
that topic.
um, so as predicted, my daughters um, did not stay in Massachusetts and New York, and then the one in New York, she got an opportunity to move to Los Angeles.
Oh,
So that was started it, and then uh, I think the next year or 2 years later, her sister moved to Austin. So
mhm.
my younger daughter, she's been here for like 10 years now. And then after the older daughter lived in LA in I think 2015, she got a job here in Austin and moved to Austin. And so we've all been, so I got here in 2017. And
Okay.
so it's been great. We're going over to the house on Sunday for dinner to my older daughters, and my younger daughter's birthday on Saturday. We're going to go out and do something for that. So it's great. I love being here.
Oh, that's amazing. Being close to family, especially now, it's just incredible. And
Yeah.
it was even this is even pre-pandemic. So how did you guys fare through that? Like just kind of still staying close to each other?
Yeah, it's funny because you what everybody thinks about is, oh, you got to stay apart and this that.
Right.
We just had a thing where, I did most of the work, but they would say, okay, if you put it on the porch and then get back in your car, we'll come out and get it, because it didn't bother me to go to Target or HEB, anything that was open, and I followed the rules. But you guys stay home. You're young and all that, and uh, we didn't see each other. We did Zoom meetings, Zoom birthdays. So we kind of got in the spirit of it. We actually did a Thanksgiving. We sat in the younger daughter's yard in Austin, right off of
Oh,
Fifth Street, and she had tables, and everybody had their own serving spoon, and she really uh, did a great job, and it was a lot of fun to see everybody. But we were all 6 feet apart, and looking back, you're like, oh, that was so stupid, but it wasn't. It was really, when you look back, it was a good time, having family, and since not seeing them so much that year.
yeah. As much as we wanted to say we knew what was happening, we not many people knew exactly what was happening, and
Right.
we were just kind of going with what we were being told, and we were just going
Yeah.
with like even if it sounded silly, hindsight obviously is 2020 now, but ironically, um, but yeah, even back then we were all just kind of like, well, this is what we're being told. I guess this is what we
Yeah.
should do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and, here we are. Um, that's
Well, it's
awesome.
the irony is, though, as military guys, it's like we're used to be doing what we're told, and I think they were probably gone by the time you joined. But we used to have the pneumatic uh, immunization guns, and you just walk down a thing, and you'd be bleeding, and you say, "What was that one? Don't worry about it."
Don't worry. Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's true. Like we were definitely like getting all these immunizations all the time, and you would be sitting in a meeting, like a command and staff, and all of a sudden like you see this list of all these people just in red. Like what's going on here? Like, oh, they're missing these immunizations. Like they
Yeah.
just got
Yeah.
30 of them last week. What are they missing now? And like, we don't know. Um, but go get it done. Um,
Yeah.
and then we also had mandatory flu shots or flu vaccines.
Yeah. You had to get a flu shot. Yeah, and you got to the point where it's like, okay, well, you might go to here, where, like Afghanistan was malaria. You might,
Yeah.
you know, have to go there. Or if you go to Iraq, they don't have malaria, so you're not going to get that, or whatever it was. And,
No, but you
and
still have to take the shots that,
still
take
get all the
37,000
shots.
needles in one arm.
Yep,
And then you
yep,
create that scab. Like everybody knows, like if you've been overseas, not just because of your deployment patch, but because of your scar from the immunization.
yeah, yep,
And then,
yep,
yeah, definitely, I absolutely had, I don't know, massive bottles of malaria pills
yeah,
I took with
right,
me to
yep,
Afghanistan. They were like, you got to
yep,
take these every day.
yep,
And I'm not going to say any names, but I do know some other officers who never took any of their malaria pills.
Yeah.
But nothing happened to them, so it's fine.
So I remember from my time there that there was a shortage of the doxycycline,
Okay.
and they had another. There was a substitute that nobody had ever heard of, and they're like, here's the substitute. And if you did research, everybody said, don't take that. And it was like, where did you get this stuff? And it was very widely accepted that it was not. It was going to give you, hallucinations, and it was just weird. So a lot of people stopped taking that one. I forget what it was called, but
Yeah, now that makes more sense because I, those officers and individuals who I deployed with to Afghanistan who never took those malaria pills that we were given, probably like this is probably their, you know, fourth or fifth time that they were being
yeah,
deployed. So they were probably traumatized essentially from all the hallucinations
yeah.
from, previous rejected medications.
Yeah, and so what we used to do is when people were leaving, we'd go around and say, "Hey, you got the doxycycline," and they go, "Yeah," and so you could scrounge a little bit, but it was not a good system. But everybody did their best.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that you're retired and you're semi-retired now, you're not going overseas anymore, I'm assuming.
No, 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 no.
You're here in
Happily married.
Texas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, here in
Congratulations.
Texas. Thank you.
What do you do now?
So, um, one of the things that an Army career and a military career like mine, one of the things you have intermittent spurts of community. So
Yep.
my big thing now is community. So when I first moved to Texas, I worked for like 6 months at a local nonprofit, and just wasn't my cup of tea.
Mm.
And so after that was 2017. So I stopped working. I haven't worked since. But we have the Circuit of the Americas here. We have UT. We have Texas State. So I work now for a company that provides event staff, and
Okay.
so I work Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at Texas State out in the heat in the parking lot, telling people where to go so they could go move into their dorms. And it's a lot of fun, and you get to meet nice people in the community, and you're making a contribution still. But I maybe 25 days a year, 30 at the tops. But they do concerts. And I'm going to work F1 in October, and you get to see the race. And there's
Yeah.
some perks to it. And so at UT, they have the new South End Zone down there where they've got the high end suites, and they're adding more. And so I'm one of the people that does customer service for the high end donors down there. So it's a lot of fun. You get to see the game, and I've been doing it for 6 years now, and the fans know me, and I know the fans. It's awesome. It's just great. And I get out of the house,
Yeah.
and then I've just been nominated to be the director of the Harley Owners Group here at Cowboy Harley.
Got
So
it.
that'll be exciting to do that. And then my brother lives in Dallas. I get up there, and he's having some medical issues. I get up there 2, 3 times a month. I like to travel. Just got back from the Sturgis rally. I was gone for 9 days. Um, so it's like I do kind of community first, and then me second. Well, the family second, and then me third. But I still have a lot of time to do a lot of things.
Yeah. And I applaud you for being active and, being all over the place because in a lot of cases, you've done your time, right? You've done
Yeah,
your time in the army. You've done your time overseas as a contractor. You've done your time in local government. You've contributed so much to not only the country, but like other countries as well.
thank you.
Yeah. And so if anybody's earned a rest, it's definitely you. But I understand completely that burning desire essentially to continue to serve,
Yeah,
and continue to do
absolutely.
things for other people. And you brought up the Hog Association, and yep, I understand completely how you and my dad connected.
And on a side note, I'm hoping he's going to be the assistant director. So
Ah, well,
give him
we can
something to
nudge him
do.
in that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
th- I think he'd be good.
He just got a new trike.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He
I
loves
what
that thing.
I don't know the story, but I remember when he bought his yellow bike,
Uh-huh.
and it was like the talk of the town.
Yeah.
And then he traded it in recently. Um,
Yeah. Not too long, a month or two.
yeah. So he sent me the picture, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Huh, well, that's a change."
Yeah. Yeah. And it was funny because he, the trike, I think, was the right move. And I don't want to digress too much, but the trike, I think, was the right move for where he is in his journey. But that yellow bike, I never, there was no, there was no, everybody, like, that is a cool motorcycle.
Yeah,
Everybody that saw it was just, double takes. And I think he kind of liked that part of it.
I think so too. And honestly, it was very easy to spot him going down the
Yeah.
road. There
Yeah.
have been numerous times where, because we all live in the same area as of right
Uh-huh.
now. There's numerous times where I'll drive down the road in my truck, and there's a yellow bike going by. There's only one person who's going to be
Yep.
riding a yellow bike, and that is my
Yep.
dad.
Yep. Yep. But
So,
he's doing good on the trike and he's getting miles on it. So,
oh yeah, and so you're just out doing the great things for the community. What do you think is going to be the next chapter? What are you looking forward to next?
my wife still works, and I'm hoping that when she retires, that we can um, build sort of a routine, a lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, to where we can travel. She's not traveled out of the country very much, and there's just so many things to see and do that are different. Uh, Even in the United States, there's
Yeah,
culture here, and California culture versus Kansas culture, you
versus
know,
Sturgis culture.
versus culture, yeah. And so I'm hoping to take that break finally and go and see places that I may not have experienced, or go back and revisit places that I like and take her along. Have her get to see kind of what I did, and um, we have a 4-year-old granddaughter, so I'm hoping that she gets to be more and more involved. We get more involved with her and her with us, and
Yeah.
I'm already counting down the days to till we can go to Disney World when she's, I don't know, 8 or 9.
Oh man, she's
So
gonna love it.
yeah, it's fun herding and managing all these activities. It's so much fun, and I'm busier now than I've ever been in my life.
That's the crazy thing I've noticed about certain people in retirement. It's that we've earned this break, but all of a sudden I can't stop, and
I
I'm
can't stop
I'm
it.
busier now than I've ever been in my
Yeah,
life. Um,
yeah.
but more important question: so, are you a Disneyland or a Disney World person?
You know, I would probably say Disney World
Okay.
because um, that was the first one I went to just the year after it opened, and
Oh
so
wow.
I just have a fond place in my heart for Disney World. And you can make a vacation in LA. You got the beach and all the other stuff, but I mean, it's just like destination, and they take care of you. And there's so many different things that you can see, and it's been a while since I've been there, so I'm excited to go back and see how it's going.
Yeah. The last time I went to Disney World was quite a number of years ago. Probably almost 8 or 9 years ago. So
Wow.
it's definitely been a while, and I hesitate to go back only because at this time my kids are old enough to where I don't need to like keep a direct eye
Yeah.
on them. So we can get to the point where it's like, okay, go off, do your thing, and then come back in like 3 hours. We'll meet up, make sure
Yeah.
everybody's okay, and then we go off again.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
I remember doing that as when I was a kid, and so I kind of want to impart that as well. But what I also noticed when I was a kid was my parents would go out and they wouldn't ride the roller coasters or any of that stuff anymore. They would really just watch the shows and things. And I thought that was so
Uh-huh.
boring. Now, those shows sound amazing. Sitting in the
Yeah.
AC, not
Yeah.
having to deal with a lot of things. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, I have definitely become my parents.
Yeah. The little things, the little AC, but yeah, it's so much fun. And, honestly, so much of our culture, I mean, as far as pop culture goes, Disney got to be right up there. And if you've never been and you don't get it, you're going to be, my granddaughter, she's going to be at a deficit when people start talking about Cinderella
Yeah.
the pumpkin coach and all the stuff that goes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. So I want to be super respectful of your time, Duke.
Oh,
And
I'm
so
having a great time.
I
Let's
appreciate
keep
it.
going.
And I've got two questions left
Okay.
as we wrap this up. These questions I ask everybody at the end of our interviews. And the first one is kind of a serious question. And that's, now that you've retired, now that you've transitioned out of the military, and not only that, but you've also, stopped doing the overseas contracting and things like that. Um, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who is just starting to get out of the military or just got out and they're about to take those rose tinted lenses off?
So I think the thing that I would say, and it has worked for me, I applied for a bunch of jobs throughout until I started working overseas. I applied for a bunch of jobs. And the piece of advice that I have is when you're looking for a professional job that's, based on your skill and your experience, you need to have a plan to be in charge of the interview,
Okay.
right? Because you have to build that rapport. You have to show them why. And if you just wait for them to ask you a question, then you're not going to get to showcase your skills. And the interview is such an important part because that's all they know about you. Maybe your resume. Have some good questions. I used to like. It drives my wife crazy, but I'd say to people interviewing, especially if you have a panel, you say
Mhm.
circles or squares, and they go, "What? You like circles? Or you like squares?" And most people will say circles, and you say no, squares, because you got to make a decision. You get 4 decision points. You got to change. You got
Got
to
it.
change your direction. Whereas a circle, and you come up with stuff like that shows that you are trying to get to know them and their culture a little bit. You can ask people coffee or tea, and most Americans will say coffee, and you say no, tea. It's the international drink. Everybody drinks tea, and
Pigeon sweat.
but yeah. So come up with stuff that is going to give you an insight to the culture. And,
Mhm.
that's all predicated on you're trying to get a good career job, right? So something that you have experience with, but show that you have some personality. And by having some really good prepared questions. And some of them can be about the outfit that you want to go to work for, but some of it should be about the people that you're going to work with, here in Texas, A&M or UT,
That is a big
and you're
question.
big question. Rangers or Astros, Cowboys or Texans. You can get a really good discussion going. You'll see what kind of people. Because do you really want to work someplace where people can't change quickly and have a laugh and then go back to what they're doing? You don't want to work for people that can't do that.
That is a very, very good point. I'm plus 20 episodes in, and I don't think
Uh-huh.
anybody has ever said ask cultural questions during
Yeah,
interviews, not
yeah,
just. First off, we didn't really talk about interviewing and that kind of thing in this episode, but you're right. You want to go in with good questions about the
yeah.
company.
Written down so you don't lose your composure.
Right. And go in with 5 to 8 is a good number.
Yeah.
A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times for me, at least lately, was I'd go in with 5 to 8 and I could only ask two because all of the other questions were answered during the
Yeah,
interview.
yeah,
And so
right.
now I don't want to be the person stuck holding the bag, like, okay, so what are your questions for us? And be like,
Yeah,
so what's every day look like? Like, that's
yeah, right.
the typical question, and everybody's going to live for you to
Everybody
hear it.
asks it. Yeah,
But if you ask something crazy like, you know, UT or A&M, like, that's going to
yeah,
be that could turn into a very interesting interview.
sure. And they will remember you. I
Absolutely.
guarantee you when they're talking about that was the guy that wanted to know if we were Longhorns or Aggie fans.
Yeah. Or
And
circle or squares.
circles or squares, and
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, man. I want to change direction. Circles, people autopilot in circles,
Yeah.
and you don't want to run circles. I always say, you want to make change, to be able to make changes, and you'll get some really interesting perspective from people that you ask that to.
Okay. Yeah. That is, Y'all, that is a fantastic question. If I ever interview again with anybody, like I'm going to be asking those questions. The
Yeah,
specifically the square and circle question. Um,
yeah, yeah.
okay, and so the last question is not very serious, and that's what's one thing that you did while you were in the military that you just can't get rid of?
Um, well, I'm gonna have to think about that when I get out of bed at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Do you normally
That's
wake up at 6 a.m.?
nah. Well, Bobby gets up at 6, and I'm usually up before 7, which I never thought would be what I would be doing in retirement. But
Right.
on occasion 7:15, but usually between six
If you're
thirty and 7.
feeling tired.
If I'm feeling tired, you get a little 15 extra minutes. But I get my day going, and I come in and check the news, and it the day fills up. You'd be surprised that you keep adding things
Yeah.
to your routine, and you got to start getting up early because if you stay in bed till 10, the day's half gone.
Maybe
So
the first few weeks of retirement, that's what I'll end up doing
yeah,
is sleeping in until 10 and then, oh no, I
yeah,
only have 5 hours left in the day. Ah.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
and that old saying that the time allotted expands to the amount of work, whatever it is. And that's kind of how it is. Is like the busier you get, the more time you need to be up and awake, and
yeah.
visit with Bobby, and see what her day's like, and talk about what we're gonna have for dinner. And next thing you know, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah. There you go. Well, Duke, it was such a great honor to talk with you this evening. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, absolutely. And, good luck. I hope that you'll be president here of the association here soon.
Thank you.
When that vote comes through, I don't know how you guys do it, but when that vote comes through, I hope you're at the top.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate you having me and getting to talk about my experience, and
Absolutely.
hopefully, give people some ideas.
Sounds good. So, everyone, take a moment, like, share, comment, subscribe, and later, lads.